Hey guys, it's Tim, and this is Pro Wrestling Unlimited, as we're here with our NXT UK Takeover Blackpool review. I want to say sorry for being 4 minutes late. About 5 minutes before I was set to go live, my internet just decided to shut down, go off. I had no internet. I had to reset the modem twice before it finally came back on. So hopefully everything goes smoothly while we sit here and we talk the amazing NXT UK Takeover Blackpool show. I loved this show so much. Let me know what you guys thought in the live chat, or if you're watching, post in the comments below. Let's see who's joining us live. We've got Alicia Fox. We got Adam Hebb. We got Pizza King of WWE. Travis Ray. Henry Cavallo. Christian Barron. JM Wrestling. Colby Duran. Jack Dawson, George John Cox. What's going on, everybody? I hope you guys enjoyed NXT UK TakeOver as much as I did. I thought it was just an amazing show from start to finish. Well, no, never mind. I'm not even going to say that. I thought it was fine. Excuse me. Anyways, as we always do here, we will be taking your calls after we run down the show. We'll let you guys talk about what you thought about tonight's NXT TakeOver show. After we do our rundown, you can call it at 559-475-8473. Again, that's 559-475-8473. So on the pre-show, to start things off, we learned that Jordan Devlin's basically a heel. We know this for sure now. He came and attacked Travis Banks as Travis Banks was entering the building. Travis Banks is known to have recently had a knee injury, so he was targeting the knee. And it was questionable if Travis Banks was actually going to be able to wrestle on the show tonight. Travis Banks was cleared to wrestle, but as we learned, the match did never take place, and we'll talk about exactly what all happened when that time comes. So that was really the only major thing that happened on the pre-show. Nothing else really major happened. They just ran down the card, talked about everything and whatnot. So with that, on the main card, they kicked it off with the NXT UK Tag Team Championship match. And I thought this was the perfect match to open this show. It was Mustache Mountain against I guess they call themselves grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson. And I loved this match. Travis Ray said, did anybody watch the Nigel documentary? I did, and I learned a lot. I'll actually talk about that. I'll talk about that after we run down TakeOver, because I do want to talk about that a little bit. So this match went about 23, 24 minutes. Great opener, showcasing the strengths of all four men here. Story of the match was that Seven first injuring his arm on a dive, then also getting his knee attacked and eventually succumbing to the heels. With that, Bate and Dunn were wearing cool new matching gear. I liked this. It kind of looked like a British Bulldog inspired kind of gear. Johnny Saint was in the ring at the opening of the contest to present the championships, show everybody, hey, this is what you're fighting for. Fans were going crazy here at the onset of this match, cheering on Tyler Bate, taking off of their shoes. Is anybody from the UK here in the chat? I want to know what that's all about. I think it was Nigel. Yeah, it was Nigel. He was just like, the fans here in the UK, they're different. They're just their own kind of people. What is the whole thing about taking your shoe off and chanting? I don't understand that. Tim, were you confused when they took their shoes? I just said I was. Yeah, very confused. I had no clue what that means. And like I said, if there's somebody here from the UK or just knows what that means, let me know, because I have no clue what taking your shoe off means. And I like when Nigel goes, Vic, you better keep your shoes on, because that wouldn't be quite professional. Excuse me. So early story of the match was that Bate was countering Gibson's offense, including impressively flipping backwards through a bridge on his neck and tried a pinning attempt. Mustache Mountain was on offense in the first few minutes of the match, including Bate playing cat and mouse with Drake. The heels finally took over around the 7-minute mark by outsmarting Seven outside the ring and Gibson nailing him in the throat. Gibson and Drake hit their move where Gibson picked up Seven for a backbreaker on the outside and Drake dove over the top rope onto him. Seven bled from the back of his head, courtesy of a stiff elbow from Drake. Seven was in trouble for a few minutes until he finally managed to tag in Bate. Bate managed to do the hot tag, and he picked up first Drake and eventually both Drake and Gibson in an airplane spin to a massive "Big Strong Boy" chant. He also gave Dave an exploder from the apron onto Gibson on the outside, followed by a running shooting star off the apron onto both men. In an homage, as some may say, to the British Bulldogs, Seven hit a running power slam, followed by a diving headbutt by Bate. Gibson followed a Snapdragon Lariat combo by hitting a Ticket to Ride on Seven, then Helter Skelter, followed by a 450 by Drake for a close near fall. Gibson then locked in Shakely Gates on Seven, and Drake managed to lock in the same move on Bate. And they were trying to get Seven to tap out as they were just like, Bate, watch him. He's going to give up. You guys are going to lose because he's not good enough. And it was just great. I loved it how they were just like, you watch your partner fail. You watch your partner just go down. But it didn't happen that way. Bate managed to pick up Drake and slam him into Gibson as we entered the home stretch of the match. Mustache Mountain finally hit the Snapdragon Lariat combo, but Seven's arm was injured, so he didn't move with much force. They go for the cover, and Drake kicks out. Gibson pulled Bate off the apron on his shoulders, and Drake spread him out on a dive to a holy shit kind of moment. Gibson and Drake then hit their ticket to mayhem on Seven in the ring as Bate was knocked out at ringside, pinned Trent Seven, first ever NXT UK Tag Team Champions. And like I said earlier, I think this is the right move. I think you have these two guys in James Drake and Zach Gibson, win the titles, and then you can have your baby faces actually go on and challenge later. They have to earn their way back up. They have to do the redemption story. And finally, when they do beat these two for the tag team championships, it means more. And now, like I said earlier, I'm not discrediting being the first champions. I'm not discrediting that at all. But when Mustache Mountain finally beats them for the titles, it's that we did it. They didn't think we could. We lost to them before. We came back stronger than before. We did it. Johnny Saint and Sid Scala were out there and congratulated the new champs by giving them the championships. Travis Stray says, heel champions are better than face champions. Yes and no. Yes, because I don't know how to argue that properly. It's like yes, because how would you? I don't want to phrase this wrong. Yes, because once that babyface does win the title, it's like I said, a bigger moment, and that babyface gets that win, and the crowd's just so behind them. It's like you have a heel as your champion, so people don't like him more. Like you can have a heel that people don't like, but if he's the champion, they're not going to like him even more. So when that babyface that they love finally beats him, they're elevated into an even bigger babyface because not only are they the champion now, but they just beat that most hated heel. So I think that's why heel champions are needed. So next up, it was supposed to be the Irish Ace Jordan Devlin versus the Kiwi Buzzsaw Travis Banks. They replayed the incident earlier in the day when Jordan Devlin attacked Banks. And Banks came out, but then he was attacked again at ringside by Jordan Devlin before the bell rang. Devlin threw Banks into the steps knee first before they kept brawling around ringside. Devlin repeatedly attacked Banks' knee, kicking it on the steel steps. The assistant to the NXT UK champion Sid Scala came out, And basically, a number of referees and people broke it up. They looked over Banks after they took him backstage, and they said that he was unable to compete. Jordan Devlin then cut a promo that basically let us all know before they surprised us what was about to happen. He said, well, I guess I don't have a match tonight. I guess there's no competition for me. That's why I'm the best wrestler to come out of Ireland. I'm the best Irish wrestler. And the first thing that popped in my head as soon as he said that was, cue up Balor. Where's Finn Balor? So Johnny State came out and talked with Scala, and they stated that they had a backup plan because they were afraid after earlier in the night this may happen again, and Jordan Devlin may try to take out his opponent. And out, as the replacement, was Finn Balor, and this place went berserk. This place went nuts. They played up the thing of a teacher versus trainer because basically Finn Balor did train Jordan Devlin. And Jordan Devlin always gets the comparison of, you kind of look like Finn. Your gear's just like Finn. You wrestle similar to Finn. You need to break out of that Finn Balor shadow. And then they have him face Finn Balor. Like, what? Yeah. Orochi Ono in the chat says, Attack of the Clones. Anyways, this is a good match. I really like this match. Gist of the match here was Devlin taking on his former trainer, taking him to the limits, thwarting a coup de grace 3 times before finally succumbing to the move. They went face-to-face early off when Devlin slapped Balor, who responded with a striking combination. He went for a coup de grace right away. I really thought, when he got him down, jumped up for that coup de grace, I'm like, they're going to ruin Jordan Devlin. Jordan Devlin is going to be a geek forever in NXT UK. And I was glad after the first 2 minutes it wasn't over. The match actually went almost 12 minutes. Devlin rolled out of the ring, thwarting the coup de grace. Balor made a comeback and worked him over on the at ringside. Before mocking Balor's pose in the ring, Jordan Devlin got the upper hand. Balor eventually took back over and went to the top rope for a coup de grace again, but Devlin drop kicked him off the top rope to the outside, and Balor was almost counted out. They traded chops until Devlin eventually quickly hit his Uranagi standing moonsault combo for a 2. Both men traded abdominal stretches, and the story was neither could get a real advantage over the other. They really played up that each man knew the other so well that they just couldn't beat each other because they knew what was possibly going to come next. With that, Balor hit a penalty kick from the apron on Devlin and went to the top for a third coup de grace, but again got thwarted. Devlin hit a beautiful moonsault, but Balor got his knees up. 4th time was a charm for Finn Balor when he hit the coup de grace and finally pinned Jordan Devlin in a really good match that at first I thought was going to make Jordan Devlin look bad, but really made Jordan Devlin look good. So they then showed Luke Menzies in the crowd. Luke Menzies has been training at the Performance Center for a little while since being signed in, I think, May. He was actually Matt Riddle's first opponent in WWE at a house show for the NXT brand. It looks like Luke Menzies, who was a former rugby player, played for like 10 years. Looks like he's going to officially be on NXT. They do have TV tapings tomorrow, so we'll see if he's used then. Next matchup was a no disqualification match. Dave Mastiff versus Eddie Dennis. Match went roughly 10 minutes or so. This was a very hard-hitting match. They started out trading strikes, ending with Mastiff hitting a running crossbody. They ended up outside, and Dennis ended up being thrown into the steps. Mastiff wasted little time and pushed the steps into the ring. Both Dennis got a Singapore cane from under the ring and just wailed Mastiff right in the skull with it. He then hit a Russian leg sweep, assisted by his newly found weapon. Mastiff took a number of licks, with welts visibly building up on his body. He finally got a hold of the weapon as he went to Eddie Dennis went to hit him straight in the abdomen with it, and Mastiff was just like, nope, and caught it and held it. And I was like, ooh, you're going to show how strong the big man really is. So Dennis finally caught Mastiff with another crossbody and hit a black hole slam on the steel steps. So the whole thing was Mastiff went for a crossbody, Dennis caught him, and the announcers were just like, holy crap, basically. He caught him, and he's holding him. But then you hear, I think it was Nigel again, he was just like, but look at the legs are getting wobbly, can he really hold up Dave Mastiff? Then hit him with a black hole slam right onto those steel steps centered in the ring. Great spot. Went for the pin, only got a 2 count after a chair shot. After a chair got introduced, Dennis used it, but Mastiff then picked it up and sent him into the ropes. Mastiff hit a rolling fireman's carry on an exposed arena floor at ringside, followed up by a senton. Dennis came back with a next stop driver, which also was an impressive feat of strength. He tried another Severn Bridge, looking to smash Mastiff into the table propped up at ringside, it was propped in the corner. But he managed to escape. He then hit a release German suplex and a rolling cannonball through the table, pinning him 1, 2, 3. Dave Mastiff, the big man, is victorious. Good match. Wouldn't call it great. In my opinion, probably was the weakest match of the show, but no match was weak. But if you have to pick one match that you were like, if I had to rank them, that would go at the bottom. Then we learned that from Scotland, Kaylee Ray, and from Germany, the alpha male Jazzy Gabbard are joining the NXT UK brand. Both women were in the 2017 Mae Young Classic. We did talk about earlier this week that it was reported that Kaylee Ray was coming in at any time, and Jazzy Gabbard being signed is huge. I know Jazzy Gabbard really wanted to come back to WWE. She talked about it on the Edge and Christian podcast, where she wanted to come back after the Mae Young Classic. They were looking to sign her, and she couldn't pass her medicals. She had surgery to fix, I forget what it was that was bothersome. She was not in the second Mae Young Classic. Everyone was scratching their heads on that, and she's in NXT UK. I love it. She's going to be somebody that they can really help. She's good, and they're going to help make her be great. So next up, in a 15 or so minute match for the NXT UK Women's Championship, it was Rhea Ripley defending against Toni Storm. This, out of the other matches I've seen between the two, there may have only been, I think I've seen 2. There may have only been 1 though. Either way, between no, there was only 1. I think I'm thinking of a different match with Rhea Ripley. Anyways, this was the better of the matches they've had so far. They circled each other early on for a while, then Rhea attacked, but neither woman could get an early advantage. Rhea fled from Toni, but got wiped out by a dive at ringside. Rhea started working over Toni's back, trying to capitalize on her old injuries, and locked in a body scissor to apply pressure on that lower back. Rhea kept being the dominant force of the match with repeated suplexes, slams, leg drops, and ragdolled Toni Storm all over the ring. Storm finally did make a comeback with a big headbutt off of a whip that put both women down. They traded strikes and transitions, which led to the Farai Takayama spot. It was really what it reminded me of. Storm got the better of it and hit 2 Germans, but she couldn't get that Storm Zero. Rhea Ripley then hit her Riptide. Right before that, Vic Joseph goes, she's going for the Riptide. If she hits that, it's all over. Well, Toni Storm kicked out. Toni Storm kicks out. And no, wait. No. I'm thinking of the second time. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So she tries to go for the Riptide this time, but Toni thwarted it. She tried to get her in a submission. Rhea Ripley did get her in an inverted cloverleaf. I haven't seen that before. I've seen a regular Texas cloverleaf, not an inverted cloverleaf. But Storm did transition, get out of that, and put her in an ankle lock. She then hit her with a hip attack into the corner, followed up by a German suplex with a bridge for a near fall. Ripley hit the Riptide around the 12-minute mark for a very close fall. Ripley continued to beat down the challenger with clotheslines, short arm clotheslines, I may add, and Toni escaped for a third attempt of the Storm Zero. This is when Vic Joseph said, She's going to hit that Storm Zero and it's going to be all over. Well, she hits Storm Zero and Toni kicks out. And Nigel goes, well, I guess you were a liar there. This then leads to Toni Storm hitting the Storm Zero finally, pinning Rhea Ripley and becoming the brand new NXT UK Women's Champion. I know a lot of people said, why didn't they just put the title on her at the start? And it all had to do with the Mae Young Classic. They couldn't have her in the Mae Young Classic, win the Mae Young Classic, and be a champion at the same time, because the winner is going to get a championship opportunity. And the interesting thing here, I forgot to mention, before the match even started, when they were doing like the pre-match video packages, Toni Storm did state as by winning the Mae Young Classic, she could have challenged any brand, NXT UK, NXT, Raw, or SmackDown. I didn't realize that they were lumping that all in too, but she said ultimately she wants to represent the UK. They then showed a Charlotte Flair at ringside, and then we get the main event that went almost 35 minutes. Amazing match. It was for the WWE United Kingdom Championship. Pete Dunne defending against Joe Coffey. I found it funny how the announcers kept calling it just the UK Championship, and then they correct themselves and go, wait, no, it's the WWE United Kingdom Championship. So again, this match was great. I really, really liked this match a lot. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat really fast before we do run down this match. Gabriel Borges says Toni has a future in WWE, that is for sure. Oh yeah, way for sure. Jay King says, I feel like they took the title off of Rhea Ripley too soon. I can see where you can come up with that notion. I can see that for sure. I just feel like they've always wanted that title on Toni Storm. But with everything that went down in the Mae Young Classic, where Tegan Nox was supposed to win, go to the finals. I don't even know if Toni was supposed to be in the finals. But Tegan Nox was always supposed to win the Mae Young Classic. And then when she got hurt, it shifted over to Toni Storm. So then Toni Storm couldn't win the UK Championship right away. They put it on Rhea Ripley, and that's all it really was. Ripley was just a placeholder until they were finally able to do the Toni Storm move. Sammy Brothers says, oh, Toni Storm going to the main roster soon? No. They're going to keep her down there in NXT UK for as long as they can. I'm looking here. No Lore says Rhea Ripley, sky's the limit for her. Very true. She's young and very, very talented. So as we move on, like I said, with the NXT UK Championship, well, no, I even say it wrong. No, the WWE United Kingdom Championship on the line. Coffey came out with the rest of his group, his brother and Wolfgang. They call themselves Gallus. But they did not accompany him down to the ring. They just came out with him on the stage. Early on in this match, both Dunne and Coffey traded arm wrists, arm locks, and all kinds of technical moves to start it all out. Coffey tried his discus lariat early, but Dunne avoided it, and that was one of the themes of this match. He kept going for that discus, but Dunne kept avoiding it. Dunne kept going for moves that would weaken Coffey's arm and hands. Coffey impressively transitioned a double wrist lock into a deadlift vertical suplex, but Dunne managed to hit him enough times in the head to swing it back down into a submission hold. Looked like he was trying to get him in some sort of like a Kimura lock type deal, but he could never really fully lock it on until Coffey finally did hit that suplex. Dunne would then take a nasty spill on his face off of a throw to the outside, but quickly hit a backflip over Coffey off the steps to an enziguri that stunned the challenger. Coffey took over the match at this point and primarily worked over Dunne's back until Dunne managed to stage a comeback with a number of hard strikes, hit a moonsault to the outside, hit an X-Plex back in the ring, but it was obviously too much as his back had been worked on way too much by the challenger and it was starting to affect him. This led to Coffey hitting a huge powerbomb for a near fall. He then locked in the Boston Crab. They briefly teased that the match was going to end by, I guess you could say, pass out. It would have been a submission victory, but it would have been that Pete Dunne just basically passed out. So the referee's checking on him. The announcers are going wild, asking if the ref's going to end the match. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, Pete Dunne just shoots up and leaps over to the ropes. He has to break up the Boston Crab. Then in a really weird spot, they traded headbutts and shoulder thrusts, and then eventually both just fell. Dunn would avoid a lariat. He hit an STO and locked on a Koji clutch. Dunn then transitioned into an ankle lock off of a deadlift into a tombstone by Coffey. Both men went for their finishers, but neither could actually hit their finisher until Dunn finally managed to hit the bitter end, but Coffey kicked out at the very, very, very last second. It was like 2.8, 2.9. They both fought on the apron, and Coffey hit a sit-out powerbomb on the apron as both men fell to the ringside. I didn't like this spot that much because what happened was he hits that powerbomb. They both fall to the outside, and Pete Dunne's just knocked out. Now, Coffey's trying to get back in the ring. He's going as slow as he can, slow as he can, slow as he can. The referee calls a 9, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, Pete Dunne jumps up, slides in. They both slide in at the same time. I'm like, what? Really? Pete Dunne just all of a sudden in 9? It's got that. Yeah, and they both slid in at the same time. It's like you can see that Coffey was waiting. I didn't like that. I thought Coffey should have got in the ring first, and Pete Dunne should have got up, slowly started getting up closer to about like 7, and then at 9 slid in. At this point, Coffey started raining down blows and stomps on the champion, but Dunne got his second win and came back with stomps of his own. In a melee that followed, Coffey hit a lariat, but Dunne again kicked out just barely at the last second. Dunne locked in an armbar, which he managed to keep on even when Coffey lifted him onto the top rope and finally managed to slam him down with one arm. Both men looked exhausted at this point. They traded blows once more, and Dunne had Coffey in the ropes, but Coffey managed to come back with a Mount Everest German suplex for another great fall. And I think with this one, it was a weird landing for Dunne. If this is the spot I'm thinking, yeah. Dunne came down, just landed right on his tailbone. It looked horrible. Coffey then went for the bitter end of his own, but Dunne escaped it and hit a bitter end, but couldn't go for the pin as Coffey rolled out of the ring. Coffey finally hit his discus lariat from the apron, but it looked like he didn't catch all of it full force. They then battled on the top rope, and both men fell down. Coffey would take a nasty spill to the outside, and then a few minutes later, they did the same spot again, but with Dunne falling to the outside. Dunne would then get his wits about him and hit a discus clothesline and a bitter end, but still couldn't get down the challenger. Dunne then locked in an armbar. He transitioned into like a triangle choke, rolled over on top of Joe Coffey. He then did the whole finger break spot. He then bent back, I think it was the middle finger, held it there, and then Coffey just taps really quickly. I get it, but he tapped it too quickly, I think. Either way, an amazing match. I'm probably nitpicking too much, trying to find any little things you can pick at. So after the match, it seemingly looked like it was going to go off the air. They had the graphics on the screen that they always show of this is coming up next. This is our trademark little deal. They were like, we'll see you next time, Wednesday, NXT UK. And then all of a sudden, some music hit that I wasn't familiar with. The crowd was very familiar with this. I guess it's called the Os der Neuen Welt. And out would come Walter. When Walter came out on the stage, the crowd went wild. Walter would saunter down to the ring and get in the ring. He would then look over at Pete Dunne as Joe Coffey was climbing back up into the ring. He got in the ring, and I'm like, well, what is this guy going to do? And Walter just boots him right in the face, sitting right out of the ring. He just fell to the floor. That spot, the crowd, again, just erupted when he did that spot. They then basically said, this is Walter. At first, Nigel was like, he's here. That man is here. He's here. And I'm like, so they don't have a name for him yet? And then he was like, it's Walter. And I was like, okay, cool. We're calling him Walter. He said the ring general on the back of his coat. He stared down the bruiserweight. There we go. Looks like Walter could be the next challenger for the NXT UK Championship. And if he's not, I've got some ideas of who could challenge him that I'm going to write up on our website and probably do a video of tomorrow of who I think Walter could have some really, really good matches with on the UK brand. They did also state that Pete Dunne has now been the champion for over 600 days. I think it's like 602 starting tomorrow, 601. So yeah, overall, a really, really great show. And I saved this to the end because I wanted to talk about this by itself. There was a spot in the match when both men were down. Both men were just laying there. And the crowd started chanting, "Are you watching? Are you watching Vince McMahon? Are you watching? Are you watching Vince McMahon?" Well, apparently Vince was watching, because Vince responded to that in a tweet where he stated, I'm going to pull it up right here. Vince just simply stated a picture of Pete Dunne after the match and says, "Yes, I watched hashtag NXT UK Takeover. Yes, it was awesome." I don't know if I liked that chant by the crowd. It was like, oh, I don't even remember how they actually did it, but yeah. I don't know if I liked that much, to be honest. It was just like, why? Why would you even do that? I get it. You're like, hey, this is what the main roster should be about. We'll see what happens. Triple H was actually asked about that chant in his little post show on Facebook, and he just no-sold it. Just didn't even want to answer it. That was interesting. Now, if you guys do want to call into the show. It's on the screen, 559-475-8473. Again, 559-475-8473. We'll take your calls, let you guys give us your thoughts on NXT TakeOver Blackpool. Again, I thought it was an amazing show, and we'll take our first call here, if it wants to go. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Kim.
How's it going?
So, who else will be the perfect apartment for Pete Dunne, WWE NXT UK champion?
I mean, I think him and Walter can have some really, really good matches. It really does look like Walter will be the next one to challenge him. We don't know if there's going to be... Well, there will be eventually another UK takeover. We just don't know when that's going to be. So we don't know how much time they have between takeovers and when that Walter match is going to happen. I don't want to see that Walter match just happen on a random episode of NXT UK with the title on the line. I want to see them build Walter up over the next month or so, or maybe 2-3 months, depending on when they want to do their next takeover event. And then Walter challenges. But I think the next challenger should be Walter. If not Walter, maybe you can go with like a Dave Mastiff or something. You have the bigger guys challenge Pete Dunne. Because Pete Dunne's whole thing is, yeah, I may look smaller than the guys that you would think is a big-time champion, but I can take all these bigger guys down. So I think Walter, maybe a Dave Mastiff, something like that should be the next challenger for Pete Dunne.
And another question is, Pete Dunne is a better champion than Brock Lesnar?
You can't really say that because it all depends on how they're booked. Yes, Pete Dunne is overall better than Brock Lesnar, but you can't really go, oh, well, is Pete Dunne better than Brock as a champion in WWE? You can't, because Brock's booked to only show up X amount of times. Pete Dunne's, willing to go work and wrestle as many times as they'll allow him to. So that's kind of an unfair thing to kind of try and compare, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. Have a great night.
Thanks.
I just think the whole thing with the Brock thing is like, oh, Brock's not a good champion. Brock this, Brock that. Brock can't be a champion. He's booked like that, though. It's not like, yeah, Brock probably wouldn't work a full-time schedule, but at the same time, he's booked the character that they have for Brock Lesnar. That's all on them. Let's take another call. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
I'm a big fan of the channel.
Thank you.
Do you think they'll ever take the title off of Pete Dunne, been over 600 days.
I honestly think if you want to take the title off of him with somebody that the fans wouldn't mind, it's got to be Walter. I don't think there's anybody else on that brand other than maybe Tyler Bate that you can take the title off of Pete Dunne and the fans won't be like, well, that was a mistake. That was a dumb move. Not trying to discredit anybody else on that brand. But I honestly think that the only person other than Tyler Bate that they have that the fans, that anybody would just be like, oh yeah, that was a good move, it would be Walter.
Were you surprised that Trent Seven and Mustache Mountain did not win the tag team titles?
Not in the least bit. I did not think they should win the tag team titles. I feel like the better storyline, as I said earlier, will be they lost. They couldn't get the job done. Now they need to redeem themselves. So they go on this redemption story. They go on and beat a bunch of tag teams to finally get their rematch against the Grizzled Young Veterans. They beat them with the titles on the line, and it means more this way. They prove themselves. It's not just, oh, well, they're the most popular tag team in the brand. Put the titles on them. No. They're going to build these guys up as a great tag team that, yes, they slipped up here at TakeOver, but now they're going to prove why they should have been those first-time tag team champions.
Okay. Has WWE screwed up Tyler Bate?
Not in the least bit. I don't think so, at least.
Well, he did lose the title against his fellow teammate Pete Dunne, and it seems like he hasn't done anything singles competitor.
But that's not their plan for him. Their plan is for him to be a tag team. Remember, Mustache Mountain did win the NXT Tag Team Championships and have one of the greatest matches on NXT TV in 2018.
True.
So I honestly do not think they've messed up with him at all. Putting the title on him when they did was good because it was a shock. Nobody expected it. It's kind of like the Toni Storm thing. They didn't put the title on her at first because everyone would expect it. They didn't put the title on Pete Dunne at first because everyone would have expected it. He finally got that title. There you go. Toni Storm finally got her title. There you go.
Okay. Will Pete Dunne and Mustache Mountain, everyone will get called up to the main roster?
I want to say thank you for the call as I answered that one. Eventually, maybe. It's hard to say because we don't know exactly what the plan is for UK talent as far as going up to the main roster. Are they going to have to go through NXT first full time and then go to the main roster? Or is it going to be, hey, these guys are a great tag team in Mustache Mountain. Let's put them on SmackDown. Let's put them on Raw. We don't know what their mindset is right now as far as progression-wise between NXT UK, NXT, and then the main roster. Is there going to be a NXT UK is the lowest, then you've got to go in the middle to the regular NXT, and then you can go to the main roster? Or are all these NXT brands kind of just thought of as equal, and then eventually someone from any of those brands can get called up? That's how I think it should be. But I also wanted to talk before we ended here about this Nigel McGuinness documentary that they did air on the WWE Network following TakeOver. Now, I was always under the impression that the reason Nigel McGuinness had to retire was because he had too many concussions and he just couldn't go anymore. I didn't realize that he retired himself with nothing really wrong. I knew the whole tricep thing from WWE, but I also didn't know that if he would have never told them about the tricep, he still would have been signed. I didn't know that either. So if you guys didn't watch this documentary on the WWE Network, it was basically about Nigel McGuinness starting in wrestling, going through Ring of Honor, not making it in WWE as a wrestler, and then all of this coming full circle to him finally making it as a commentator. So his goal in life was to make it to WWE. That's what he always wanted to do. And he felt like he started on the indies. WWE wasn't interested. So his goal was, I'm going to go to Ring of Honor. I'm going to make a name for myself as one of the best in the world, and WWE is going to have to want to sign me. Well, it happened. Kind of. Went to Ring of Honor. He was ranked as one of the top 5, some would say top 10 wrestlers in the world while he was in Ring of Honor. Had amazing matches, became like almost best friends with Daniel Bryan. And then him and Daniel Bryan both got the call from WWE at about the same time. They were both supposed to come in at the same time, but then he had to do his physical. They said, is there any injuries you have right now? Is there anything we need to be aware of? And he said, yes. I had a torn tricep or a bicep. I never got surgery on it, but my doctors say that I'm fine. I can wrestle 100%. WWE said, ooh, we don't want to risk that. Go get surgery and then come back. Now, the caveat here is Daniel Bryan's made to look like a heel because they go, well, Nigel was truthful in everything and what was wrong with him. Daniel Bryan lied about having multiple concussions. Daniel Bryan was signed after lying to the company. Nigel was passed on for telling the truth. Eventually, Nigel went to TNA. He actually got hepatitis B. Took him 6 months to get over that, and then before he was ready to go, TNA just said, you know what, we're going to release you. So he did his retirement tour. He finished up in 2011, and then in the end, he started working with Ring of Honor again after he was a retired wrestler. He was a general manager kind of position there, did some commentary. Michael Cole saw him, and when they started up the UK stuff, that was the first name that Michael Cole thought about. They did the stuff with the first ever UK tournament. Michael Cole goes, this Nigel McGuinness is a perfect commentator. Put him on NXT, and they put him on NXT. So it all came full circle, but the premise of most of this documentary, to me, what I took away was Nigel told the truth, and he didn't fully get to live his dream. Bryan lied and made it to WWE. Bryan even said, my goal was never to WWE. I was getting hurt so much that I felt like, ooh, I got to make some money. And the only place I can really make money is WWE, so I guess I'll go there. It's like, wow. But that's basically what the premise of that documentary is. It's really well done. A lot of stuff from ROH on there. A lot of stuff from the indies on there. I say if you've got a good hour or so, 45 minutes, go watch it. It's well worth the watch. With that, I want to say thank you for joining me here for our NXT UK Takeover Blackpool review and recap. Thank you to everybody in the live chat, everybody watching post-live here on YouTube, and everybody that did call in. We'll be live again Monday following Monday Night Raw. Have a good night. You can follow us right here on YouTube, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling ULTD, at Twitter at PWUnlimited, and you can follow me basically everywhere at Timmy Buddy. Also, as we always say, if you like pro wrestling, but you go, PWU, you don't give us MMA stuff. You give us the wrestling. Where's the MMA? Want the best in MMA coverage? Go follow our friends over there at Fightful. Fightful.com. Follow them on Twitter at Fightful Online, at Fightful Wrestling, and at Fightful MMA. Also, they've got their own Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. They got a lot of good MMA content up there. So again, have a great night. We'll be live again after Raw on Monday. We'll see you then.